G'day guys, and welcome to this business management lesson. In today's lesson, we're looking at key knowledge point 2.2.5. That is Unit 2, Area of Study 2, and the fifth key knowledge point for this area of study. Today specifically, we're looking at the 7Ps model of marketing, and those 7Ps are named in this key knowledge point. Now, when it comes to the marketing mix, or the 7Ps model of marketing, we're talking about 7 different factors that should be considered by anybody who wishes to successfully market a product. Traditionally, the marketing mix was made up of the first 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion. But over the years, this theory has become a bit more complicated, including people, physical evidence, and process as other factors that need to be considered when marketing a product. We'll start at the top with product itself. And this is whatever it is that your business is selling to a customer. It should be that your products, whether they're goods or services, are designed specifically to appeal to the needs of your target market. If your target market are the very, very young or parents of the very, very young, then you want to make sure that your product has nice soft edges, it has textures and shapes and colors that will appeal to children. If your product is a knife and your target market is the parents of the very, very young or the very, very young themselves, you're probably failing to meet your market needs. Typically, when we're talking about products can be broken into 2 categories, and we'll talk about these categories simply to illustrate the kind of thinking you need to do around product. Those categories are business goods and consumer goods. As far as business goods are concerned, we're talking about things that are specifically purchased by businesses. Cash registers, the sorts of tables and chairs you'd see at a cafe, or even the desks and chairs you see in classrooms at school, sorts of beds that you find in hospitals. These are all things that individuals, just private citizens, rarely have a use for, but other businesses will be customers for these products. And typically when talking about business goods, the product itself needs to be reliable, it needs to be durable, and it needs to be as affordable as possible. Things like luxury don't tend to be a factor that makes these products more appealing than something that is of satisfactory quality and satisfactory comfort, but durable, reliable, and as affordable as possible. Things get much more complicated when we start talking about consumer goods. When it comes to consumer goods, the nature of the good itself means that it will need to be considered very differently. You can pause and look at this table. I won't talk to it too much. But at the top, we're talking about convenience goods. These are the things that you're going to buy semi-regularly, staple goods like bread and milk, to emergency goods like the reusable shopping bags you might have left at home for the 30th time this year. The way those products are marketed are going to be very, very different than, say, our specialty goods, which are more luxury goods, things like a sports car or high-end photographic equipment or scuba diving equipment. The way that you promote your bread or your chocolate bar, the Cherry Ripe, is marketed in a very different way than a Lamborghini would be marketed, because customer relationships with these products are fundamentally different because of their interaction with that product. This table includes a whole host of very useful information. I'll get out of your way. Hopefully you can read that. Having a bit of a read of this and working out there's different marketing considerations with regards to different product types might help you respond to certain questions about product. When it comes to the product too, we include in the considerations to do with the product, the packaging of the product itself. And just like the details of the product should meet market need, so too should the packaging. If the market need you're serving to fulfill has something to do with appealing to the environmentalism considerations of the market, or if you're specifically marketing your product as being socially responsible, then you want to make sure that your packaging reflects that also. If your target market are parents of the very, very young or the very, very old, your packaging should be something that either protects the very, very young from choking or is easy to open for those chubby little fingers on toddlers, or for perhaps arthritic fingers in the elderly. Perhaps your packaging needs to be very, very resilient to protect your product. Perhaps your packaging needs to be very tamper-proof to protect the well-being of the consumer at the end. Whatever it is, the packaging needs to be considered so that it can serve the purposes that it needs to increase the appeal of the product. The second P is price. Now, you would have seen products in time marketed for $5.99 or perhaps some variant number of cents. And maybe you've wondered why things aren't just rounded up to the nearest dollar. And ultimately, that comes down to using price as an aspect of marketing. Many consumers will make purchasing decisions based on the price of a product, and it's often involves more than perhaps even the consumer is aware to do with how the consumer interprets the price. There are a few different ways to establish the price of a product. The first would be the cost-based method. And this is where a business manufactures a good, works out how much it costs them to make this product or bring it to market, works out how much they have to make back on each sale to break even. That's the break-even point. And then sets their price to include whatever they determine is a satisfactory profit margin. This is a very basic way of determining the price of a product and tends to not be very common in the market these days. Competition-based methods are much more common. This is where the market leader in any industry can establish the going rate, essentially whatever they charge. Their competitors aren't going to be able to charge much more or much less than that, because this is what the consumer has come to expect is the price for a product like this. And so competitors have to decide, will they be offering a more luxury version where they can raise the price above this point a little bit, or will competitors be offering a more affordable option where they can lower the price a little bit, but generally they'll be operating around the price set by the market leader. And finally, there are the psychological marketing methods. These are strategies that you use specifically to try and appeal to consumers. For example, when a product is new on the market, you might use penetration pricing methods, where you drop the price of your product to try and get in as the most affordable option in the market and attract consumers to trying your product in that first case. You might use the skimming pricing method, where instead of going for the milk, you're going for the cream at the top, and you set your price basically to be the most expensive in the market to attract consumers who are specifically looking for the most luxury or the most high quality offering in that market. Or you might use complementary pricing, where you set your price low on one item, knowing that you can make up the profit on another item. For example, perhaps you're running a men's fashion store and you set your price low on suits, but you've got higher profit margins on shirts and belts and ties and shoes, where you'll make up the profits by drawing people in to purchase a cheap suit and then making up the profit on the sales of accessories. Certainly, the prices of vehicles and petrol, where one company has an influence in both companies, would be an example of this. The price of rice and chicken or something else in the supermarket, two products that can be seen to go together. Bread and butter, perhaps, is a better example. If those are priced strategically so that one attracts consumers, but the consumers won't be able to leave without also purchasing a matching product, and you make the profits on one and you attract consumers with the other, that's complementary pricing. Certainly, too, there are some products where these are not factors you can consider. Some products are very price elastic, in that as demand increases, the price will increase, and as demand decreases, the price will decrease. Or certainly as supply increases, the price will decrease, but as supply decreases, the price will increase. We see this commonly with grocery products that are grown in certain areas. So whenever there is wild weather, flooding, or hurricanes or other natural events in far north Queensland, the price of bananas in Victoria goes up astronomically as those crops are destroyed and not available for our consumption. But when crops have been good and there are many bananas on the market, they tend to be very, very cheap indeed. Other products have pretty consistent supply and demand, so the price of milk, price of bread, price of eggs tends to be very price inelastic and doesn't tend to change at all with supply or demand. Place is the third P, and this describes where a consumer can interact with or purchase the product. Typically, when you're calculating place, one of the things to consider is the convenience or access a consumer will have to that place. Consumers tend to prefer to buy products with some degree of convenience. Some specialty goods, luxury cars, or very high-end clothing or accessories, luxury handbags, consumers tend to put up with less convenience and are quite happy to travel into town or into the CBD to visit retailers of those products. If you're talking about eggs and milk, convenience is absolutely key, and so place needs to be considered in that regard. In other ways, it can also include what's around there. It might be that you have a very convenient location for your business, but if that location is surrounded by burnt out husks of abandoned businesses, and there's a lot of crime in the neighborhood, and consumers, when they park their cars to visit your business, they have to be concerned to make sure there's no they don't leave a bag in their vehicle lest it get broken into. That's all factors to consider when it comes to place. You want your consumers to have a convenient and satisfactory time encountering your business and pursuing your product. This might also include whether you sell your products online and what that online experience is like for the consumer. But generally, we're talking about how and where consumers can interact with your product will affect their perception of the appeal of that product. It might be, too, that you need to consider what impact the place will have on your ability to make a profit on this product. It might affect the price of the product. So we can talk about distribution channels when we're talking about place. And the first distribution channel in this helpful little diagram is a direct distribution channel, where you manufacture a good and you sell it directly to consumers. That's why it's called direct distribution. These other channels are more complicated. It might be that you manufacture a product and you sell it onto a retailer who then adds their own profit margin and sells it onto the consumer. That either means that you're making less profit from it, so that the consumers either are paying the same price because the retailer has to add their own percentage, or you make the same profit from it, but the consumer has to pay more, and that might affect whether this product is seen differently by the consumer. And then channel 3 here is the most complicated. Whoop, I've disappeared. Channel 3 is the most complicated of these three models, where you as the manufacturer sell onto a wholesaler who sells onto a retailer who sells onto consumers. Now, it might be that some businesses can take advantage of the fact that they can sell direct to consumers. Vineyards do this a lot. Manufacturers of wine might have the ability for people to come and purchase wine directly from the vineyard. But there might also be an advantage for vineyards selling onto a wholesaler or a retailer like Dan Murphy's, in that they don't have to have a showroom and sales staff as part of their business. They can focus simply on the core function of producing wine. You can have a look at these advantages and disadvantages, but there are benefits and costs to both types of distribution. Now, place needs to be considered pretty closely, and it's often the case that the advantages and disadvantages can be leveraged at the same time by a business that does both direct and indirect distribution. Generally speaking, there are all manner of considerations that go alongside this, like considering logistics, how your product will be transported and warehoused and stored. And generally speaking, when it comes to place, when it comes to any business that will engage in retail and storage, having an efficient logistics operation is what makes that possible and profitable for a business. Now, promotion is the big one. Whenever I start teaching marketing to my students, I have to say that not all marketing is advertising, but when we're talking about promotion, we are in fact talking about advertising, pretty much. How you inform and persuade the consumers to try your products. When it comes to promoting products, advertising is something we're all exposed to constantly, so I'd expect that you're all pretty familiar with it. And advertising is, by definition, a medium of mass communication. Billboards, those sorts of posters you see on bus stops, TV, radio, and print ads are all forms of advertising. And they will serve one of two functions. They are either to inform the market that this product exists or to persuade the market that this product is good. Either way, the idea is to grow appeal by informing the market that this product exists and can meet a need, perhaps informing about certain features that it has, or persuade the market that this is the product they should try because it's particularly delicious or because it's particularly capable. Here are two examples of different kinds of promotional material you might see to achieve this. Informative advertising here with Heinz chili flavored sauce. They're using the oven mitt to hold that tomato sauce to illustrate or to use the pun that occurs in English that hot has two meanings. It can mean spicy and warm. And so the oven mitt's doing its job there. It's basically just informing the market that Heinz now has a spicy tomato sauce. Whereas when you see advertising like this, it's very clearly sending a message that not even a straw wants to be in a can of yucky Coke, that even the straws prefer to be in Pepsi. And that's far less informative than it is just comparative and persuasive. When it comes to promotion, there are different types. Advertising has its own advantages and disadvantages, the core of those being that advertising can be used to reach a mass market, which is great if you just want to tell as many people as possible about your product. But typically, it's very expensive and very difficult to gauge effect. When a consumer does buy from you, it's very difficult to determine whether that's because they saw an ad or they'd been thinking about it for a while and just got around to it, or whether they just took a chance, they were walking past, they saw that you had something that they were interested in, and they bought it. It's almost impossible to measure the impact of advertising. Direct marketing is another and different type of promotion. It might be that you get letters addressed specifically to you, and the business that's sending them to you is marketing to you directly. It might be that you're getting emails that are curated for you based on what you've been looking at on Amazon or on eBay. It might be that you get a phone call from a business who, looking at your past purchase history, wants to let you know that the next book in the series you've been buying has come in. Anytime that the promotional activity is targeted directly at you, this is direct marketing. And it can be more time consuming and perhaps more expensive per head than advertising, but typically we'll see it a little bit more effective. Once again, that one-on-one communication from the business is going to be more likely to have an impact on the consumer's thinking about making a purchasing decision, and certainly those one-on-one interactions can help build a sense of fondness or even of loyalty from the consumer to the business. Of course, when it comes to things like telemarketing, which is an example of direct marketing, if these communications come at inopportune times, they can be perceived as being an invasion of privacy and an unnecessary, even nagging effort from the business. Junk mail isn't something that most people enjoy getting, and if your inbox is getting clogged up with people or with businesses trying to send you specific deals about the things that you like, then that can be quite negative experience for a consumer. And we can talk about sales promotions as well. We have all encountered these, whether the price of a product is dropped for a period of time or whether there's a bonus, buy one, get one free, 25% extra on this can of hairspray that I've had for years. It might be that you can generate an incentive for a consumer to buy your product immediately, in which case you can expect it to drive up sales. Of course, one of the disadvantages of a sales promotion is that once the promotion has ended, you're unlikely to have built loyalty from the consumers who are taking advantage of that opportunity. But offering the opportunity does work very effectively for getting consumers to try your product. The next P is people. and it almost doesn't matter what you buy or where you're buying it, you will encounter at least one person. Might be sales staff, it might be customer relations staff that answer questions or follow up just to check in, or it might even be that you use celebrities or use people in your promotional materials. And so someone who might buy your product online might see happy smiling faces on your website, and the people who own those happy smiling faces that posed for photography or in a video promotional exercise that your business recorded and then put on their website, those people will be the people that your consumers will interact with. It's necessary that the people that the consumers interact with are capable of developing or increasing the relationship that your consumers have with the business. Where we're talking about sales staff, high quality customer service, it cannot be overstated how influential that is for building a customer base. And so providing good customer service is the basis of increasing customer loyalty, increasing the amount that customers spend, etc., etc. If we're just talking about the sorts of people that are used in promotion, if these are celebrities, it's important that the celebrity's reputation and the celebrity's public image reflects the value and the perception of the business that you want to put out there. It's also important that if you're using people in your promotional activities on your business, you've been very careful to select people who don't seem inauthentic. If you're trying to sell video game accessories or music accessories, if you've got stock images of people holding guitars on your website where you're trying to sell guitars, and the people in the photography don't know how to play guitars, they're holding the guitar wrong or holding the violin wrong, the consumers who come to that business probably know what they're looking for. And if they spot that sort of not very genuine attempt at reflecting the quality of the products, they might become a little bit suspicious about your intentions, and that can negatively impact your business image. Physical evidence describes everything that a customer encounters that is physical, that isn't specifically the place or the people. So might be in your clothing store, is there what's commonly regarded as the husband seat, where if a couple goes shopping and one of them steps into the changing room to try on their clothes, is there somewhere for the other person to sit while they wait? That would be physical evidence. What kind of signage will people see when they encounter the store? That's physical evidence. What color are the walls painted? What's the arrangement of shelves? Are the things high on the shelf different than things low on the shelf? This is all physical evidence. It's the physical things you encounter. What's the floor covering? Is it very plush carpet? Is that carpet clean? It gets a little bit complicated. You can get really into the weeds with this stuff. What color is the linoleum on the floor? But generally speaking, the idea is that every bit of physical evidence someone will encounter will shape their perception of the business and the product. And so these bits of physical evidence need to be considered very carefully. It's not just your employees that need to be very capable in providing customer service. It needs to be that they can provide customer service in an environment that's full of physical evidence that all sends the same message, whether that be luxury or quality or affordability. The physical evidence needs to be considered carefully. The process describes the customer's engagement with the business to purchase this product and what they will experience. So it might be the process of typing in www.netflix.com and navigating the site to the make an account page and the putting in your details and putting in your credit card information, and how long that takes, how many clicks you have to do, whether you understand or the consumer understands how and why they're being asked for all the details they are when generating an account, what they're being shown and how they're being directed through that website. It might be that you're looking more at the sale of shoes. It might be Nike's looking at the process for consumers. So they would start with, how does a consumer become aware of Nike? What sort of marketing materials do they encounter? And then do they go to a Foot Locker or do they go to a Nike store themselves? And what do they see when they walk in? Is it clear to them where items are arranged in the store? Is it unclear, but it doesn't matter because the store's just cool and everybody likes being there? This is all process stuff. When they do have their product, is it easy for them to find the register? When they do approach the register, are people lined up orderly, or is it a bit chaotic? Doesn't matter. Maybe chaos is good for your particular brand image. Who knows? The process is how a customer goes through the motions of going from being a potential customer to being a customer. How they find out about the products, how they actually encounter with and choose the products, how they purchase and take home the products is all process. How much of this you have control over as a business will differ entirely based on the type of business you are, the type of distribution channel you have, but where it's under your control, it needs to be considered. Ideally, once again, it should never be unnecessarily complicated because consumers don't typically like a challenge to try and purchase something, unless, once again, it's one of those specialty goods, and perhaps even the challenge in that case is part of the joy. I've recently learned about a luxury brand, Birkin bags, I think they're called, where a consumer who wants to buy one doesn't even get to choose what color they want. They've got to spend a certain amount of thousands of dollars a year on other stuff in store. Then they'll get an invitation to buy a bag, rock up, and they're presented with 2 bags, and they can buy either one of those. Might not be the style they wanted, might not be the color they wanted, but that's it. If they don't take that opportunity, they're not going to get another one for at least a year. Wacky, but I suppose Birkin have done their due diligence, and they know that that process is particularly appealing for the sorts of people who they want to be buying their bags. Doesn't make sense to me, but I guess I'm not in the target market. In summary, and I know this has been a long one, well done on sticking with it. There are 7 Ps in the marketing mix when we consider the 7 Ps model of marketing. Those are product, price, place, promotion, people, physical evidence, and process. When it comes down to it, each of those describes factors that need to be considered to increase the appeal of your products. The success of any marketing campaign will likely depend on the specific tailoring of each factor. If your product is unsatisfactory, you won't sell any. If your price is unattractive, you won't sell many. If the place that consumers can access it is not attractive, you won't sell many. If your promotional materials do not compel people to buy your product, you won't sell many. If the people they encounter are inept or unpleasant, you won't sell many. If the physical evidence is not satisfactory, you won't sell many. And if the process is unsatisfactory, you won't sell many. So each of those needs to be right for you to bring a successfully marketed product to market and make sales. That's all for today. See you next time.